Good evening and welcome to the Print Center. Thank you to our in-person audience as well as those joining us on Zoom. I'm Liz Spungen, the Executive Director here at the Print Center, which is a nonprofit organization celebrating its 110th year supporting contemporary art and artists in the fields of photography and printmaking. We are privileged, those of us in the room, to sit amongst the beautiful works in our show, Memory Loss. And for those of you on Zoom, I hope you will come see the show along with Nazanin Narouzi's False Dawn before November 22nd. Next slide. We have a number of related events for the exhibition, and we hope you will join us for one or all of those. This evening, I am delighted to welcome photographer Gerald Cyrus back to the Print Center and to introduce you to our colleague and sponsor for this evening's talk, Gerald Chappell. You may know Gerald from the talk he gave here in 2022 on what was then his new book, Harlem Nights, or from seeing his window on Latimer, which was featured in our street-facing window this summer. A little bit about Gerald, now a Philadelphian, originally from Los Angeles. Gerald began making pictures in 1984. In 1990, he came to the East Coast, to New York City, and received an MFA from the School of Visual Arts. He also interned at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture at the New York Public Library under the supervision of renowned artist and art historian Deb Willis. In New York, Cyrus focused on the streets of Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Harlem, and in the mid-90s, focused on the vibrant music scene in Harlem nightclubs. The resulting body of work, Stormy Monday, was published in 2008. Did you already show the books? In 2000, we were lucky enough to have Gerald come to Philadelphia, and he began photographing both here and in nearby Camden, New Jersey. He has also worked extensively in New Orleans and in Brazil, where he was a fellow at the Sacatar Foundation, if I pronounced that correctly. And Gerald is also a member of the renowned Kamoinji Collective, which honors, documents, and preserves the history and culture of the African diaspora with integrity and insight for humanity through the lens of Black photographers. Finally, he spent many years as an educator in the area, both at Haverford College and Philadelphia University. So before we hear from Gerald, I am very pleased also to welcome Gerald Chappell of the Gerald Chappell Foundation. Gerald will take a few minutes to introduce himself and his work. So I will just briefly say that we are delighted to have you with us tonight and that we were introduced by our colleague, Gary Burnley, who had a solo exhibition here at the Print Center in 2024. And since then, Gerald and I have been conversing, and I'm very pleased that part of what has come from the relationship is this evening. I hope it will be the first of many collaborations. After we have heard from Gerald and Gerald, we'll have time for questions. And then Gerald will share some more information about how you might get involved with the foundation. So please join me in welcoming Gerald Chappell.
So thank you, Liz, and thank you all for being here. It's so delightful to be here in Philadelphia. It's a delight to be here at the Print Center. I just really appreciate the gratitude, the warmth from the very beginning, and so thankful for being connected through Gary Burnley. So what I'm going to do is we're going to see a very brief video, which will show a little bit about the Gerald Chappell Foundation, the origin story. Then I'll come back up here briefly, and then we'll go from Gerald, which is why you're all here. So we'll cue the video first.
Community.
Foundational.
Potential.
Resilient.
Inspired.
A conduit.
The values of the Gerald Chappell Foundation are simple: integrity, financial self-sufficiency, community, collaborating with partners, with artists, and continuous improvement. My name is Gerald Chappell. I'm the founder, president, and chairman of the Gerald Chappell Foundation. I retired from a financial services company, sold my Washington, D.C. home of 10 years, used the proceeds to actually start the nonprofit Gerald Chappell Foundation 501c3. So the Gerald Chappell Foundation is focused on enabling emerging artists to achieve their highest potential. We do that through focusing on artists in residencies, artist talk series, and we curate an online digital platform for artists. The foundation has a presence at the local level in Chicago, in Syracuse, New York, in Washington, D.C., in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Meanwhile, the impact is global. The Gerald Chappell Foundation Emerging Artist Learning Pathway consists of 4 phases. The 4th phase is to provide an established artist with an opportunity to give back as a mentor. So they serve as a mentor to the artists in residencies. My vision for the future is that the actual visual artists that the foundation supports today will have a chance to actually be in a position to support other artists who are emerging.
My name is Mildor Chevalier. I am a Caribbean artist. I'm from Haiti, and I live and work in New York City. I'm one of the artists who have worked on the Artist Marketplace. I've participated in the Artist Talk series. It was great to have an audience, can have a platform to talk about not only what we feel as an artist, but also our journey and our viewpoint.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Mi nombre es Joyce Alarcón, soy fotógrafa y narradora visual de Ecuador. Es para mí una gran alegría poder compartir con ustedes parte de mi trabajo que está expuesto en el Marketplace de la Fundación Gerald Chappell. Una invitación para que pasen y vean todos los proyectos que compartimos con ustedes a través de esta plataforma online.
Hi, my name is Cecil McDonald, a photographer, videographer, performance artist. My relationship to the foundation is through a COVID emergency grant. I just never thought that during COVID people would think about artists. And it made you say, oh, now I have to really keep working because there are people who care about the things you're doing.
My name is April Frazier and I'm an artist. The foundation has been an integral part of these last 2 years in my career in the sense that it's given opportunity for more exposure and exploration of different facets of art. One was being the facilitator of the artist talk between Early Hutnall and John Simmons.
It was so fascinating. My name is Monique Brinkman-Hill and I'm the Executive Director of the Southside Community Arts Center. We've been around for 81 years with a mission of conserving, preserving Black art, teaching the community. How can we collaborate? What we came up with is that we would collaborate on his Artist Talk series, and that was a virtual collaboration moderated by April Frazier. It was established Black cinematographers and photographers sharing their stories, talking about their practice and how they work. It just was in so much in alignment with the center and what we do and how we want to celebrate the artists. So it was a great collaboration for us.
Well, it's a great foundation. No, I mean, Gerald Chappell is a wonderful individual who's so committed and responsible and thoughtful. Foundation, I think, it immediately brings to mind the financial support, which of course is vital.
I chose to volunteer because I believe in Daryl and I believe in the mission of the foundation. We don't have all the money in the world, but we have some good skills, right? And we can do a bunch of different stuff, and we know like some interesting people. So let's just all combine all of these different things and see where it takes us.
Art is very important in life, even in difficult times. It reflects the society and people's daily life in a different level. So I love arts, even I'm not an artist, but I want to contribute to the art world, especially for underappreciated artists.
Thank you to the foundation for such a great vision, creating a community for Afro-descendant artists and helping artists to achieve their potential and creating some kind of pathway for the ones coming. And I think this is great, and I'm always looking forward for any new endeavors that the foundation is taking and to be a part of it.
Please consider supporting the Gerald Chappell Foundation. This is a prime opportunity to utilize our foundation as a great vehicle to show your passion for art and compassion for underappreciated artists, raise their awareness, truly make a difference for the artists in need.
You know, you're helping a very good foundation from the ground up, and you're gonna help build with us as we go on this journey together.
For more information, please visit our website, darylchappellefoundation.org.
I just want to say thank you. The fact that an organization like this came through to support, it's no small task. So I'm very appreciative of that. And I just want to say thank you.
Back up here at the end. However, I do want to just say thank you again for being here. The community of artists is at the center of our work. Gerald now makes artist number 78 that we've funded since we started in 2019. We've awarded over $133,000 to artists directly, and we're so thankful to have Gerald as a part of the community. So I'll come back up a little bit later, but thank you again for being here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I want to say very much thank you to the Prince Center for hosting this and to the Daryl Chappelle Foundation for sponsoring it. It's wonderful to see all the work that you've been doing. So I'm very pleased to be in the line of succession, so to speak. So I entitled this presentation 15 Years, nothing really interesting or unique about it. It's just basically work that I've done in the last 15 years. When Daryl and I spoke, I decided to focus on that particular time period because that work hasn't gotten as much exposure as work as I've done in the 90s and early 2000s. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to show some of this work. Over that time period, I've worked in many different locations, from Camden, right across in New Jersey, Cuba, Brazil, here in Philadelphia, New Orleans, Harlem. And I've worked in different film formats. I worked primarily in film, black and white film, and process my own film, make my own prints in the darkroom. And I've worked with various formats, 35 millimeter on up to medium format, 6x7 and 6x6. But also recently, I've been exploring more in terms of digital. So I have made images from digital files into black and white images and also color images. And so I'll be talking about some of that work as well. Right. One constant in the work, I think, over that time period, basically, I'd say from the mid-90s in my work, has been a focus on African-derived traditions and culture, and how that has been transported and distributed across the Western Hemisphere. And I took a course when I was in grad school about the African traditions in the Western Hemisphere, right, at the these sort of remnants, so to speak. And I read this book by Robert Ferris Thompson called Flash of the Spirit. And that was really instrumental for me to sort of understand that these things that I was seeing within my own family and my own community didn't just come out of nowhere. These are things that from American background, but from Africa, and the many different customs, rituals, belief systems that have survived through that. And so I started taking various trips. In the 90s, I took, well, I mean, my family's in New Orleans, my extended family. My immediate family's in Los Angeles, where I grew up. But both my parents were from New Orleans, so all my aunts, uncles, cousins basically lived down there. So I was traveling down there anyway, but I started taking more trips around the South, primarily the Mississippi Delta, and photographing that region. And in 2002, I was awarded a residency at the Sacatar Foundation that Liz mentioned in Bahia in Brazil. And let's see, 1995, or so earlier than that, I took a trip to Ghana in West Africa. And then in 2016, I got a chance to go to Cuba. So all these things have been sort of present in my mind, this idea of what are these commonalities I've seen, things in terms of style, physical expression, street art, memorials, music and dance, the importance of water as a element of ritual and passage. And so some of these are some of the things that I've been trying to capture and use in my work. So we'll go to the first image here. First, I want to say shout out to Johnny Simmons, the photographer Johnny Simmons, who's a member of Komonge, by the way. I haven't actually met John Simmons, but he is a member of Komonge. And he has this fabulous image of a little girl eating an ice cream cone. And so sometimes as a photographer, you have these sort of images that float in your mind. So I don't know if that was present when I took this image, but certainly I could see the similarity once I produced it. This is Havana, Cuba. This is reminiscent of another photograph, in fact, one of mine. This image I took when I was photographing in the Harlem nightclubs of a woman, Hattie Gossett, and her holding a cigarette. So just the expressive way people can utilize a cigarette. I mean, it's a shame cigarettes are so bad for your health. It's such a wonderful prop in the way people can use them to express themselves, their sense of style and what have you. And so you see that in this image as well. This is when I was at the residency in Brazil. It's in on an island called Ilha right off the coast of Salvador. And first went there in 2002 and made subsequent trips in 2007 and then another residency in 2011. So this is one of the images I took in 2011. And what's interesting is I photographed this young woman when she was a child back in 2002. And so to see this, you know, this growth in her, now she has her own child, you know, it's really striking. A lot of times when we take images as photographers and we don't know the people, they become fixed in time. And so you always see this person at a certain age. And so this was an opportunity to sort of disrupt that and me to actually see a person I had photographed 9 years prior as a young woman with her own child. So it's Brazil. After I started photographing in Camden in 2001, and it marked a sort of different approach and style in terms of me using the camera in a more cooperative way with the people I was photographing. I was using a larger format than I had been before. None of these are 4x5, but the ones I was taking in 2002 when they still had Polaroid film were 4x5 Polaroids. And so I had to mount the camera on a tripod, and it was a much more elaborate process. And so the collaboration between me and the people I was photographing presented just a new method for me. But when I'm taking portraits, I'm looking for sort of a relaxed posture or countenance, and perhaps maybe even if it's gesture, if I can find that. But I'm also looking at how that person fits within the environment that they're in and how they fit within the picture frame. Trying to take notice of light. This is someone else I photographed in 2002. In fact, he's in the same photograph with Michelle, the other person that I showed you. This is Jonas. And again, Camden. So again, I've been going to Camden since 2001. There was a long break in there somewhere between 2008 to 2019, but since 2019, I've been going back regularly. And I don't know, it's just a place. I'm trying to figure out what it is about Camden. But one thing I figured out is the way the light hits in the afternoon. Camden doesn't have a lot of tall buildings. So when that sun comes across the river and pours into Camden, it's just a wonderful kind of light. In Onita, Puerto Rico, there's there were, I hear now there's a bridge, perhaps, not sure. But there are two modes of transportation across to the mainland at mainline of Philadelphia. There's a big ferry, and then there's a smaller boat that they call a lancha, and this is taken on that. And so the idea of water, right? Water as a place where people find tranquility, a source for food, a place of ritual. I've actually walked through Camden at some of the more heavily wooded areas that have been cleared away since, but I would walk through some of these areas that were, for the most part, dumping grounds for trash, but you would walk by trees and see things like bottle trees, which is anything if you from the South, you see these bottle trees where bottles are placed on limbs of trees, and it's a way of capturing spirits, right? And so you actually see these sort of, again, traditions from the South, but again, from Africa through the South on up to Camden. This is the Bay of All Saints in Brazil. The Malecon, which is the big seawall in Havana. So street art is something I've captured a lot in these images, and the way people express themselves through art, through murals. It can be celebration of certain celebrities. It can be a commentary on social issues. It could be shout outs to, people either in your neighborhood or famous people. Or they can be forms of advertisement for businesses. This comes from a series that I've started I won't say I have abandoned it because I could go back to it, but it was I was shooting multiple images or using multiple images on strips of film and printing them together and thinking about how you could extend the frame, how you could create these juxtapositions. So it talks about the randomness of what goes on and how, and particularly when you're shooting in the street, the randomness of the things you encounter and how that could actually turn out to be within the image of 3 images, have an organizational structure and a sort of rhythmic pattern. So, the way people move through the urban environment is also an aspect. Physical expression through sports, or it could be dance. Memorials, sometimes to people that we honor, sometimes to the people who oppressed us honor, all right? So there's a whole debate going on about that now, of course. This is another, I call them sequentials, these strips of film that I print together. This is in the Adam Clayton Powell Square in Harlem, 125th and 7th Avenue. Jersey Joe Walcott statue. Okay. So we'll move to some color work. So again, the color work has come about. I used to shoot slide film, but I just never, they sat in boxes. So shooting digital has given me more of an opportunity to actually see the work in a larger format, either on a screen or printed. And so I've taken the opportunity to sort of look at more of these. The reason I usually work in black and white, there's a beauty about silver, that silver image on a silver gelatin paper, that process, there's just this beauty that it holds for me that I'll probably never get over. And there's something also, I think black and white is maybe a little less literal. It maybe can take you out away from the ordinary and let you see things in terms of metaphor a little more easily. But then color as well has, certain aspects. It can be powerfully emotional as well. Certain colors carry certain emotions. And so I've been trying to use color in a way, though, that doesn't use it as literally and tries to still evoke some of these same things that I can get from black and white. Again, cigarette. Gesture is a large part of a lot of my images, and so I'm always attuned how people may be standing or moving or gesturing, and how that works within a picture frame. Malacone again. These are thatched houses in a little village on Itaparica called Bayacu. And it's been a very long standing traditional fishing village. But again, these kind of structures echo back to West Africa and the thatched structures that are built there. So now this is interesting to me because this just occurred to me a couple of days ago. So this is a statue of Frederico Antonio Castro Alves, who was a Brazilian poet and playwright. And he was this is the 19th century. And he was very active in the abolitionist movement. So again, you know, in your memory, you have these images that sort of float, though you don't quite know where they come from. So this gesture of him with his hand out like this, I knew I'd seen it somewhere, but I didn't know exactly where. So I just filed it away. The other day, I'm reading this article about Carol Walker, or the artist, and this project she's doing on Confederate monuments. In fact, a particular monument, I think the one of Stonewall Jackson, where she's deconstructing it and putting it back together. And it talked about other Confederate monuments that were torn down in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder. And one of the ones they talked about was a statue of Jefferson Davis from Richmond, Virginia. And as soon as I read that, it clicked because I have photographed that monument before, many, many years ago. And it's the same gesture, you can Google it, it's basically the exact same gesture. So the irony of it being used on the one hand for an abolitionist and on the other hand for an enslaver is just kind of interesting to me, to say the least. This is a statue of Zumbi do Palmares, who a legendary figure in Afro-Brazilian culture because he led a, what they call them, maroon societies, right? There in Brazil, they call them quilombos, which were communities of formerly enslaved people that had freed themselves and gotten to a place where they could protect themselves. Usually heavily wooded areas, remote areas, which are difficult for slave catchers to try to get to. And they could sort of set up encampments and fortifications to protect themselves. And so he was one of the leaders of one of the largest ones, I think the largest one, Palmares. And so there's a statue of him in Salvador. And so this was in a window that I saw in New Orleans. And it's an image of the Yoruba deity, and passed on to Odun, Candomblé, Santeria, of Iemanjá, who's the deity of water, seas, right? And so again, this is the idea of water, of ritual, religion. capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial art. But again, there by the ocean, the water as a backdrop for ritual and athletic practice. This was a candomblé ceremony in a nature reserve on Ilha Barica. And this is New Orleans. So the idea of white, right, representing things like purity, closeness to deities, present in this wedding reception in New Orleans. And so the second line, right? And how that, again, is a transformation of African traditions and utilized in formal sessions like this, or on the street in parades, right? A form of revelry. Soul Train line. He knows it. And New Orleans is known for its brass bands, which are, very community based. Just about every neighborhood has one. And in food, right? The idea of how food has been transported and used and passed down through generations. Right? This is a huge open market in Salvador called San Joaquin, and where they virtually sell anything from food. You can see all kinds of grains. They'll sell candomblé ritualistic objects. They'll sell art. So it's just this massive open market. And then they have butcher stalls as well. So it's quite a spectacle. A grave site in Brazil. So you can see it is decorated with all kinds of objects, from water bottles to tiles to I think shells as well. There's plants on top of it. So again, this is a West African tradition of making sure the spirit stays in the ground. You want to, the water bottles are there. I talked about the bottle tree. These bottles are there to capture the spirit. And then also things are there to keep the spirit happy so that they don't wander, right? And so you'll see this in the American South. I've seen grave sites in the American South. Same concept. And the sign there says, preserve o meio ambiente, preserve my environment. And then I just follow up and close with some family images, again from New Orleans. And that's it.
Thank you so much. We welcome questions. I'm going to start.
Okay.
I was just really intrigued that when I saw your presentation that you have mixed so much time, subject matter, geography, and given us no clues in terms of titles or dates. So I know that has to be a very intentional decision, so I'm wondering what your thoughts are around that.
Well, they're within the last 15 years. That's what I think. Yeah, well, I wanted to make the focus more on these ideas I'm talking about. And so that's why I didn't really go much more into the location. I wanted to focus more on these kind of ideas I've been thinking about in terms of these traditions that are carried forward and that are present, sometimes very, very visibly, sometimes buried more. But yeah, so that was my thought behind that.
Makes us wonder. Do we have questions in the Zoom room? Do you want to call out one of those?
Yeah, we have two from the Zoom room. First from Juliet. Do you share or show these pictures with the subjects? And if so, how do they respond?
Yeah, when I can. The great thing when I was shooting Polaroid in Camden was everybody got an immediate print right away, and I could keep the negative and utilize that in the darkroom. When I went, all the images I took in Brazil that I wasn't able to shoot on Polaroid, which is lately, because again, Polaroid really hasn't been around since 2010, something like that. I would either email them when I got back to the US, or I would mail prints to the people at Sacatar and see if they could distribute them. People I'm shooting, photographing in Camden, I definitely try to get emails from them and send those images to them if I don't have someplace I can physically mail a print. Of course, all my family members have seen have seen their images. But yeah, whenever I can, I absolutely try to give them something in return. As far as their reactions, it's been mostly positive. Nobody, my family have been the most critical of me, as family usually are. But yeah, mostly everybody else has been very thankful and pleased that I was, because not everybody gets, particularly black and white prints. I mean, nobody gets a black and white print of themselves nowadays. So they usually are very pleased to get a black and white image, printed, 8x10 in the darkroom. So yeah, usually pretty positive.
Questions in the room?
Hi, I noticed quite a bit of your images utilize silhouette, especially like water in the background, sky. Can you speak a bit more about that, if that's something?
Oh yeah. That's something that's been present in my work, for a long, long time. And again, it's a way maybe to make things less literal. You start to notice things like gesture, posture, and it can become sort of an every person, not necessarily specifically an individual person. Yeah, so those are usually my thoughts about that.
Just a follow-up question on that. A follow-up question. Do you tell the subject how to pose or behave, or is it just natural? Do you capture them in the natural?
Yeah. When I'm taking a portrait of someone, yes.
I'm just going to repeat the question from the Zoom. So it's a follow-up to the question about the silhouetting, and our guest asked about the intentionality of pose. If Gerald asks for a specific pose or captures something natural.
Yeah, it's usually I don't tell them anything except maybe try to put them in a spot where I think will maybe be a more aesthetically aesthetically strong picture. And I'm cognizant of the light. I'll try to, position them away where the light hits them in a certain way. And beyond that, I just basically tell them to relax, and if they can relax and just give me just sort of a direct, gaze, right? That's usually will suffice. Yeah.
Wanna take one from Zoom?
Yep. We've gotten a couple supportive comments. Stephen Parloff says it's really wonderful to see all of your work, and he says, well done.
Thank you, Steve.
So we have another question. This is from Don Camp. I asked Roy De Carava if he was influenced by anyone. His response was, who influenced the first artist? Don's question is, do you have someone who influenced you?
Oh, well, De Carava, absolutely.
That one up.
Yeah. When I first started photographing and decided to actually take a course in it, it was at a high school night class in LA, actually Inglewood. And so I just learned how to process film, and I was fascinated. I mean, everybody talks about that first experience of seeing the image come up in the developer in the darkroom, right? And I was no different. I was hooked from then. But shortly after that, I happened to go to this Black Film Festival, and they were showing a documentary on Roy De Carava. I'd never heard of him. Didn't know anything about him. And at that point, which is very, in the very early stages of learning about photography. And I saw that film and saw his work, and it just grabbed me and hasn't let hold of me since. But seeing the way he took everyday scenes and transformed them into these incredible works of art, I just opened up a door. I was like, wow, you can do that with photography. And so, yeah, that's what I've been chasing ever since.
Two questions. The first one is, some of the pictures you took in, I would say maybe more intimate spaces, like a wedding, that looks more like a family kind of gathering.
Right.
Or even the picture of like the priestess, or like people,
Right.
How did you gain access? How did you gain their trust to be able to enter into such intimate, environments to capture them?
Okay.
And how do you feel about being captured in such moment?
So, do you want to recap the question?
Oh, yeah. So the question was, when I'm photographing in very intimate environments, how do I get permission or, okay. Access, okay, permission, and the sort of cooperation of people. All right, so it depends. So that wedding was my family, so that's no problem. But when I was photographing in Harlem in these bars, these really small bars and lounges, I would just, introduce myself and say, I'd like to take some pictures. And maybe people are a little stiff, awkward at first, but when you come back again and again and again and again, they just get used to you and you just become one of the crowd. So that was part of the way I was able to gain that kind of access and that kind of comfortability, right? I think you mentioned the contemplate ceremony I shot. Yeah. Okay, right. So that was in a nature preserve on the island of Itaparica. So they invited people to come to that, and so I went to that, and I was just sitting around with a group of people witnessing it, and so people were really close to you, so I was able to get access there. But yeah, usually, I mean, you can't, like the cafe, the image of the two women in Havana, right. So I had encountered them on the street. I was photographing on the street, photographing a man and his family, the woman, right, with the child. And so they came by, they knew the family, they talked, right? And I started talking to them as much as I could in Spanish. Right. And they said, well, come on, we're going to this cafe. And so I got in that cafe, and that was just being that view out the window and everything, just worked and like that. So it just varies from whatever situation you're in, right? Some things can be more difficult than others, particularly if there are things that have a sort of like sacred element to it, like a religious ceremony.
Can you talk about the role of the anecdote for you when it comes to photographing, in the sense of that in the presentation, there's a lot of like storytelling that you share. I was wondering, do you store these? Do you write them down? Or how do they find their way kind of into your practice, in a sense? That kind of also goes on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily. I was keeping a journal for a while, but then I kind of fell by the wayside some time back around early 2000s. So now it's maybe more sporadically. It's more just through memory. These really indelible kind of things that happen really tend to stick with you. And then I've done a lot of these presentations, so that it's like I tend to seem to remember. The more I tell something, the more I remember it. But that's really, I don't have any really structured way of remembering anecdotes or anything like that. I just sort of I think about what was happening, what I was feeling, and what was going on around me, and that usually will provide the memory.
We have another from the Zoom audience.
Yeah, from Giancarlo Valentine.
Yeah, Giancarlo.
Can you share some thoughts about the way that photographers, motivated by similar teachings and impulses, can wind up making such similar images across generations? This always strikes me as belonging to a kind of tradition beyond race and nationality, and it's so rarely intentional. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Boy, we'll leave to Giancarlo. We'll go deep. Yeah, there are, I think, things that you carry with you from people that influence you, photographers, artists, what have you, that influence you. There are things that you bring to the table, right, from your own experience, lived experience, your community experience, your family experience. And then I think it's a matter of intentionality, what you want to keep, what you want to discard, and where you want to go with what you've had access to. So maybe on some people's part, it may be unintentional. But I think the people, the artists that I admire, there's an intentionality about how they move forward with that.
Still back to the 11-year span that you captured the Cafe Royal book for the Harlem jazz scene. From 1990 to 2001, I believe.
Right.
I would think there would be massive gentrification during that period right there. But I would also think that jazz clubs will kind of be largely untouched more than other areas since like when Clinton took up office there and stuff like that. So how different was the scene whenever you were shooting from the beginning, from 1990 to 2000?
None of those clubs I photographed exist now. That's that's how different it is. None of those places are around anymore. The rent skyrocketed, and they just could not afford to stay there. And so it is completely changed. I think one of the last ones would be the last one. May have been Lenox Lounge, right, which closed. Yeah, exactly. One just below 125th on Lenox Avenue. But yeah, all the rest of them are just, they're gone. Yeah.
Kayla?
Yeah, one final one from Zoom, from Phyllis Phillips. You've been photographing for over 40 years, which is an incredible journey. How has your eye, your process, or even the way you tell your stories through your photos evolved as technology and trends have changed?
All right, so yeah, Phyllis goes way back. I won't get into that. Yeah, I'm still buying old cameras. I just bought a camera last week, an old Greyflex XL. So I will probably always be that kind of photographer that is going to just have an interest in these film cameras and the way they see the world, is the way those lenses work, right? Digital, I've become more conversant with digital just because I had to, particularly when I started teaching courses in it. It is made things much more convenient in terms of, even when I'm dealing with film, with prints, and store them digitally as files, right? For a long time, I had a problem with digital images because they just, again, they seemed too literal, like they were too sharp. This is like the magnification, just in terms of sharpness, was just off the charts. And I hadn't figured out a way how to convert a digital image into black and white and get the tonalities I wanted. So that took me a long time to figure that out. Once I did that, and I learned how I could sort of reduce that hyper reality that digital images have, then I became much more, willing to use it.
We have time for one more?
This one was very curious. I'm not a photography expert, but I did notice that the photographs that you took in Camden and the ones you took in Brazil have this contrast in terms of lighting. The one in Camden seems to be darker. Even the ones you took of similar, like the ones with the water as background. In the two locations, but one was a bit lighter, one was darker. And I was wondering if you used the same camera or if it was just the environmental, if it was just the way of playing out.
Yes, it's different.
Repeat the question, please.
Oh, okay. So she's noticing there's a contrast between my images of Brazil and Camden, and the ones using in Camden tend to be a little darker, right? And she's wondering if there's a difference in cameras that I was using. So the answer is yes, and also differences in film and developer. I won't go into this whole thing that Kodak did when they changed their T-Max developer, but I'll just say it caused me problems. And so I had to go on this journey of trying to discover another developer I could use to get satisfactory images. So yeah, in different cameras. So the ones in Brazil, I think, were taken with a Bronica 645, and then the ones in Camden were taken with either a Pentax 6x7. I think I had a few up there were taken with a Rolleiflex. Yeah, so all those were differences. But I think the main difference was this just difference in developer that occurred that I had to switch. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to turn the floor back over to Daryl for a few minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the presentation. You only saw half of the 100 pictures he was going to show. There needs to be a part 2. So we'll have another part 2. So opportunities for artists. So we do fund artists. So we would like to provide you with opportunities for those on Zoom as well. We go to the next slide. We currently have an open call for artists who are looking for mentors. It's on our website. This is offered by the foundation. You have a chance to apply for a mentor. You get a chance to actually be matched up with the mentor of your choice. And then both parties need to agree. So it's a mutual agreement in that relationship. So definitely consider applying for a mentor. You have the QR code there, which will take you to our website. Next slide, please. This is how you can stay connected with the foundation. So we're on across all social media channels. We have a development assistant here, Henry Borchek-Trotman from New York. So he's also available to help you with how to follow us. We have some material downstairs if you would like to have help signing up for any of our websites. And then next slide. One of our core values is continuous improvement and feedback. So we do offer this opportunity for you right now to pull out your phones and scan the QR code, give us feedback. There's only 2 simple questions. And I won't say what they are. You have to scan them to find out what they are. And we'll take that feedback seriously and just continuously improve on the Artist Talk series, or Artist Talks. This is the 11th one. We're so thankful to be here with your beautiful facility at the Prince Center. And then really, that's it. I have to say my famous line, you don't have to go home, but you have to get up out of here. For those from the Midwest Chicago, that's a very common saying. I really enjoyed all of you, so thank you so much.
Thank you.